Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Data Dialogues, brought to you by Certus Insight and published on DVIC. Joining me today is Gary Kennedy from APNIC. We've invited Gary along to talk to his experiences about trying to build Data Vault through manual coding and processes, and then moving to the use of an automated tooling platform to deploy Data Vault. Hello, Gary. Welcome.
Hello, Richard.
So, Gary, I might get you to start us off today with just a high-level introduction as to yourself, your role within APNIC, and indeed, what do APNIC do as an organisation?
Well, I've been 20 years a developer with APNIC. APNIC is the regional internet registry for the Asia-Pacific region. We primarily provide internet number resources. These are your IP addresses and to members in the Asia-Pacific region. Now, in that 20 years of developing, I've started off as just a humble software developer, and now they've put me in charge of our data warehousing.
Excellent. I'm not sure I've met many humble software developers, so well done you. So you've been using Data Vault for a while. I'd be very much like to hear, what started you on the journey towards Data Vault and how you started building your Data Vault, before looking at automation technology.
Well, we were interested in setting up a singular data warehouse. Mainly because we had data all over the place, and we wanted people to have an easy way of accessing, a singular source of data. When we first started, we had a consultant. We brought in an original consultant that suggested the data warehouse would be the way to go. And he was getting into Data Vault 2.0 himself. So we had the choice between, Data Vault 2.0 or other systems. And after looking at it all, we decided that Data Vault 2.0 was kind of the best way to go for us, mainly because it gave us things like, point-in-time historical data, being able to recreate source data.
I think we started talking, I think it was towards the start of last year. And I think the conversation, first of all, focused around doing a review of your Data Vault. And I know the feedback I got from my team was that you actually built a very good Data Vault, but your issues were more how to ramp up the speed with which you could deliver the output. So when did you start looking at the need for automation and really, what was the primary driver for that?
Well, originally we just did a small slice. It was only 5 tables. And as you said, the code was all done manually. But because it was my first attempt, there was a lot of changes that I had to do. And replicating those changes to fix all the code was very obvious that was going to be an exponential effort to make those changes. So it was apparent very early on that we needed some form of automation to save a lot of my time.
So this was something that you had identified for yourself. Was it something that the business were in agreement with, or was there a process to try and convince the business of the need to make an investment?
No, it was the business understood very quickly that we needed to automate this. We needed to be able to have me progress fast on a lot of these things, because with just a couple of our data sources, we have over 200 tables. Right. So the time saving was noticeable.
So time and effort to deliver was the key driver. Sometimes that can be a challenging business case to mount. Did you find the business were pretty receptive and understood that? And was that a factor of their own data maturity and understanding, how to use data?
It was very easy to make them understand. My boss and his bosses, pretty much all the way up the chain, have had experience before with data basing and data warehousing. So they understood intuitively the need.
It's very interesting you say that, actually. We often hear that or there's two types of organization. There are those that have had experience with building data warehouses in the past and understand the effort and the cost and the frustrations that can come from building. And they often are very, very keen on looking at Data Vault for its efficiencies and speed, and are quite, engaged very early on to improve what they do, versus those organizations are doing things for the first time, and no one quite believes it's as big a project as it inevitably ends up being. So it's nice to see that you had you didn't have to face some of those problems that a lot of others do. So then tell me, in terms of assessing the technology, what was important to you going out into the marketplace and looking for a technological solution?
We didn't want to rely on any singular product or technology. So we were more looking for a generic approach, something that didn't actually rely on any singular technology to implement. There wasn't really any, we just basically went out there with a list of requirements. And as I say, we were introduced to Data Vault 2.0 initially by our consultant, and that one ticked all the boxes.
So in terms of, you said ticking all the boxes, what were those critical capabilities other than, needing to be not locked into a single way that a vendor would do it? And obviously Data Vault, being tools agnostic, helps with that. But what specific capabilities were important to you that a technology solution would provide?
We were after some point-in-time historical data views. So we wanted to be able to go back at any point in time and look at the data as it was at that point in time. We were also interested in recreating that source data. So one of the worries that we had was that if we wanted to switch vendors for some of our source systems, we wanted to be able to recreate for backups or to be able to transition to another vendor. We were also interested in data governance. So, defining our terms, not overloading our data fields and things like that.
So, as I say, building manually can be obviously a challenge. We've seen that in the marketplace. But then selecting a partner and selecting a technology stack can come with its own risks. What was the process like in going out and finding a technology solution for the automation? And ultimately, what tool did you select?
Well, thankfully, the Data Vault Alliance forums were very helpful in that regard. They pretty much pointed us squarely at Wherescape, and Google was a nice secondary confirmation there. Now, having done the Data Vault 2.0 practitioner course through Certus, I was on their mailing list, and it was through the mailing list that I found out about Iris. And I thought, well, this is great. This is, so with regards to Data Vault 2.0, some of the research that I did suggested that some of the templates there would need some tweaking. And thankfully, Iris has done all that tweaking and template work for us.
Yeah. What was the next step for you in evaluating Iris as a potential solution for you?
Well, we approached Certus and they ran us through a nice proof of concept, which was wonderful because that gave me something that I could show the managers and they could see the business value in that. And now moving forward, we've got it all set up, and they've just taken me through the induction workshop. And our next step now would actually be adding some new sources and creating some information marts for some new reports.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, certainly running a proof of concept or a pilot is almost now an essential step given how skeptical sometimes business people can be about what we're able to promise when it comes to delivering insight. How has the business received the work so far?
You should ask us again in a year's time. We're still in the beta stage, but the reports that we've produced from the initial data vault have been very well received.
Well, that's very good to know indeed. So if I can sort of recap, the challenges that you were facing on the coding manually were predominantly time. And we usually often see complexity can be a big factor in that as you start growing more data sources. What did you see in terms of the potential time savings for yourself moving to, an automation tool versus hand coding? Were you able to identify where and how you could save time?
The most time savings was in regards to the initial setup and loading of the raw vault data, modeling the hubs, the links, and the satellites. That was very repetitive work that can easily be automated. With regards to creating some of the information marts, those were a lot more specific and focused. So maybe not so much there, but again, there was a lot of repetition in creating an information mart that could also easily be automated. Again,
that's a really good point that we see more and more, and it's across, a lot of job functions now, that there are tasks that are eminently repeatable. They might require, some minor changes to them, but that's really where automation can shine, freeing up, in this case, your time. And I'm right, you're just the only person managing the data warehouse right now. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So I think the alternative to using automation is just throwing more headcount at it, which I'm not sure in this case was probably the right way to go. Am I right?
No, automation is definitely working smarter and not harder.
Yeah. So it frees up your time. What have you been able to do with that time? What kind of things are you now looking at being able to expand and improve upon for the organisation?
Yes, but it gives me more time to work on data ingestion, adding new sources, as well as creating new reports.
So, look, it's great to hear, that the time savings are delivering, and that the business itself was and is supportive of what you're trying to do. In terms of those people who are looking at building a data vault for themselves, what advice would you give them?
I would actually recommend practicing manually on a small slice to produce, a very small information mart, because it drives home the theory, and it gives you a lot of good experience with your modeling, your methodology, and your architecture. But after that, definitely automate.
Well, that's indeed, what most people, I think, arrive at. It's usually down to then the business case, and you were quite lucky, I think, that you had a supportive business. But for those who maybe need to do some convincing, I think the big takeaway for me today has been the time savings, taking out those repeatable tasks allows the existing resources, in this case yourself, Gary, to do other things, to add more value to the organization, finding new insights that can be delivered to management, and ensuring that there remains trust within the data. Well, Gary, thank you very much for your time today. It's really appreciated when people, give back to the industry in this manner. For those of you who may have questions, please feel free to post in the DVIC. We have people who are very engaged on that forum, who will be able to answer those questions and help out if you need it. Gary, thank you again for your time. Really appreciated, and we'll talk to you all again very soon.
Nice. Thank you, Richard.